Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another one of our programs, Hajj Day to Day. It's an exclusive program coming to you live and direct all the way from Mina. Not just that, but it's even more unique that it can be seen only on Huda TV. Hajj Day to Day is a unique program which is running up until the 7th of Dhul Hijjah. What we do is we take the topic of Hajj and we take another subject and we discuss them together. Yesterday we had a look at Hajj and the Day of Resurrection. Today, inshallah, we're going to have a look at Hajj and the topic of unity and brotherhood. Now, when we look at the different rituals inside of Islam, Hajj stands out. Why? When we look at Hajj and we look at the various aspects inside of Hajj, we see the unity of people from all over the world. We see people from different backgrounds, from different colors, from different languages, even from different social statuses, coming together wearing the same garments with the same goal, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't this an amazing show of unity? So today's program is going to consist of a number of different segments. We're going to look at the definition of unity and brotherhood. We're also going to have a look at what do we base this unity upon? Is it just a random unity, or is there some principles to this? Furthermore, we'll have a look at the dangers of being disunited. And finally, we'll try to conclude the program with a practical element in how we can come together as one and how we can unite. But before we do that, dear viewers, I'd like to remind you of our telephone number, which is on the screen as we speak. So call us. We appreciate your phone calls. We appreciate your feedback, your comments. You make the program more interactive. So please do call us and give us your thoughts. Furthermore, you can also contact us by our Facebook page and by Twitter. So let's begin Hajj and unity. But before we begin, let's introduce our guests. Our first guest on my right, Sheikh Ahmed Saifuddin. You've been with us for a number of days. We really appreciate you being with us. You're a professor at the Imam University, and I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay. And our second guest, Imam Amr Dawab. Dabour, sorry.
It's okay.
Dabour, you are an Imam in the States, in Florida, if I'm correct.
Yes.
You also have a Master's in Islamic Studies from the prestigious University of Al-Azhar al-Sharif. And if I understand correctly, you're a teaching assistant there as well. I'd like to welcome you to the show. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Jazakallahu khairan. My pleasure, Yakhi.
Thank you very much. And Sheikh Muhammad Said, who is also a doctor lecturing at the University of Medina University, and also specializing Orientalism. Is that correct?
Correct. Jazakallah.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Sheikh Ahmed, if we could begin with this big topic of unity, can we ask you to define for us what this means?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وأصلي وأسلم على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه والتابعين لهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله أكبر كبيرا والحمد لله كثيرا وسبحان الله بكرة وأصيلا. These are precious days. That's why we need to make takbir, as this is the sunnah, to announce a takbir in these days, whether you are in Mecca or outside Mecca. But since we are here in this, let me give you my feeling first. I feel very happy to be in this group with these respected brothers, but also in this beautiful city, and I call it beautiful city of Mina. Nice tents, clean streets. I know people are ready to come, inshallah, on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, 2 days from now. But it's so nice. There is a nice breeze that we get from time to time, which makes it wonderful, and really have this nice feeling. When we talk about Hajj and unity, that's a very, very critical topic. And let me, if I can approach the definition of unity. Unity is a term that refers to a group of people, normally with large number, to be united, getting together around one important objective.
Okay.
That is, they unite for a particular purpose. So we call this a unity, or people who are united around something. They could be uniting around something bad or good, but that's just the linguistic meaning of unity. In Islam, of course, this unity has to be defined in the sense of what it's the sense of its objectives.
Okay.
Obviously, when we talk about the unity of Muslims, we talk about the unity of their creation, that they are created as humans, they are equal, and we talk about their objective, which is to follow Islam in its purity, based on the evidence from the glorious Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is basically the meaning of unity when we address it. As I understand it, we address the unity of Muslims being one ummah.
Okay.
As Allah says in the glorious Quran, وَإِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ. Verily, this is the ummah of yours, which is one ummah, not a divided one, and I am your Lord, your Rabb, so worship me, meaning single me out in worship.
Okay.
So that is basically the objective, is to unite around the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of the superficial titles that we have. We could be Egyptians or Saudis or Pakistanis or Malaysians or Nigerians. This does not make a difference.
Okay.
We could be from an Arab race, we could be from another race, an Indian race, a European race. It does not matter. Whether we are having the same color or different colors, and naturally as human beings, we will be having different colors, different races, different backgrounds, different affiliations based on where we come from. However, what unites us is the word of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli wa sallim barik alayhi.
Imam Amr, building upon what the Sheikh has just said, this concept of unity, is it based upon further principles?
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I'll pick it up from there, from the Sheikh.
Please.
I do like the unity based on the objective, wahdatul maqsad. The
Okay.
goal of all the ummah is the same. And talking about Hajj being here in this blessed place, mashallah, Mina is right there, Masjidul Khayf is right there, 70 prophets, according to one hadith. Is it 70 or 700 prophets that prayed in this masjid?
Subhanallah.
And in a couple of days, all representatives of all the ummah from all the corners of the world. I've just met one Australian guy. Actually, he's 1,500 kilometers off the coast of Australia. One small island that is the population is 700, and he said 90% are Muslims.
Subhanallah.
MashaAllah, coming from all the islands and people. I came with a group from the States and Canada. People coming from all direction. What is the objective of all of these people? Why are they coming to this very place in here in the middle of all of these rocks and mountains and tough environment? The goal is the same.
Right.
So when we look at the Quran, we see the ayat, the very ayat that the Sheikh quoted, MashaAllah, إِنَّ هَذِهِ أُمَّتُكُمْ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً.
Right.
One ummah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us the objective or the thing that will get the ummah together. وَأَنَا رَبُّكُمْ فَاعْبُدُونَ in the first ayah in Surah Al-Anbiya, ayah number 92. And then in Surah Al-Mu'minun, فَاتَّقُونَ. So worship me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that your ummah is one single ummah, regardless of all the race and backgrounds and languages and what have you. And then in the other ayah he said, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبِلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. I'tisam, or holding firm to the robe of Allah.
Right.
We will never achieve this unity until it's holding firm to the robe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's what gets us together in here to make Hajj, to seek forgiveness and mercy of Allah. But it teaches us also the very beautiful lesson of being together, being one ummah, being mu'tasimeen, being holding firm. All of us, goal is the same, seeking the mercy. Actions are actually the same. So I think the ummah, or the foundation of the ummah being one ummah or being united, is that it should be bihablillah, with the robe of Allah, holding firm to the robe of Allah, coming back to the way of Allah.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
Jazakallah.
Sheikh Muhammad, there are so many different types of unity. What would you say is the best form of unity?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walahu wa ba'd. The Ummah throughout its history achieved a lot of forms of integration and unity, which led to its prosperity throughout the line of history. Number one, the unity of objective. And number two, the contribution that it introduced to mankind.
Okay.
In the form, let me give you examples for this. If we review most of the intellectuals and the people who participated positively and proactively in the history of Islam, the Ummah did not know a recognition, or what you can call a racial discrimination, throughout its history. The prominent figures who preserved the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, the great scientists and those who had great contributions, they were not Arabs. They formed a principle of unity which assimilated and integrated all the efforts which were actually directed to just one goal, which is the prosperity of this Ummah. So, objective contribution, and also it doesn't necessarily mean that we attain a complete form of unity in the sense of that all people are united under one umbrella or one organization or one state, etc. Because the concept of Ummah in Islam is a group of people who gather together on a pure and clear crystal principle which is adhering to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. This is very common in the statement of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud when he said that an Ummah may be one person. An Ummah may be just one person because he adheres to the truth. The Ummah and unity in Islam doesn't necessarily mean a majority's opinion. Even in the Quran, when it talks about the majority, it is mentioned in the context of that they don't all the time attain perfect and sound opinion, etc., as it is common in the context of the Quran. One of the forms of unity that Muslims can achieve is in their forms of an acts of worship, like the assemblies that we have in Hajj, the congregation. Wherever and whenever you read in the Sharia itself, the body laws, you will find that the Sharia has unity as the principle and isolation as the exemption. In terms of prayers, in terms of pilgrimage, in terms of all efforts, not only rituals, but when it talks about marriage, contracts, and widen the area of solidarity and social solidarity. So it is these are all forms of unity, which is better expressed actually in the Quran and under some other titles, like for example brotherhood. And it's expressed in attaining one goal, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Inna Allah yuhibbu alladhina yuqatiluna fi sabilihi saffan," in the sense that they have one unique, united objective. وَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ. So it is another form of unity, which is the affinity among the believers, which is emotional sentiment, in the sense of whenever something or a problem happens for a Muslim in the East or the West, there is still a feeling of that body in all its corners. This is a form, I need to emphasize that, though we have, and this is a fact, that we have a lot of separation, a lot of differences in the Ummah, a lot of conflicts, this is it. It happens, but still, the ummah craves after that principle, craves after unity, loves it. Though the enemies of Islam working and changing some laws in the Muslim states,
Okay.
but still the ummah craves after those principles. Though in some, for example, in some laws, adultery and fornication may be permitted, but still the people, the common body of people, abhor that, dislike it. They drive it away. They don't like it. So I mean by the sense, the relationship between this point is that still this is a form of unity in the sense of loving the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Unity of principles.
And working on those principles, though they are absent in reality, but still all the hearts of the Muslims crave after achieving that.
Okay.
So these are briefly some of those forms.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Dear viewers, our number is running across the screen, so please do pick up your phones. We encourage you to contribute and to give us your questions. As always, you make the program far more interesting with your questions. Sheikh Ahmed, if I could ask you to look at the 5 pillars of Islam. When we look at each one of these 5, we notice that there is an involvement of unity, that it involves a second person or a third person or a group of people. Could I ask you to elaborate on this principle?
Yes, indeed. Let me pick up from what Sheikh Muhammad mentioned regarding a person being an ummah. Allah says in the glorious Quran, "Inna Ibrahim kana ummatan qanitan lillahi hanifan wa lam yaku min al-mushrikeen." So he was by himself an ummah. Now, obviously, the ummah is led by a person.
Okay.
And normally, this person who is in the position of a prophet like Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, or other prophets of Allah alayhim jami'an salawatullahi wa salamu, then obviously they will create an ummah because he will be a leader and then others will follow. But then the word ummah was used in the glorious Quran as a collection of a large number of people. In fact, the whole ummah was given a mission.
Okay.
As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس. You were the best of nations ever delivered to mankind.
Right.
أخرجت للناس. And what are the qualities? تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. There are 3 things that would unite the ummah around, which is to enjoin what is good and to forbid what is evil and to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah in this particular ayah started with enjoining good and forbidding evil, which is essential
Right.
for a strong belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although normally you start with the belief, because if you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you take this into action.
Right.
Now, taking this into the forms of the 5 pillars of Islam.
Okay.
Obviously, when you utter the word La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, you pronounce Tawheed. You say that I believe in Allah as the only deity worthy of worship, and I believe in the messengerhood of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam to be the example to be followed. In fact, this is the basis which we need to unite around, and that's where differences and problems start if we do not comprehend the meaning of this essential word. And that is the key to any success. In fact, the key to any unity, if ever. Because the meaning of La ilaha illallah is that there is no one or deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to obey Him, to stay away from His prohibitions, to ask Him subhanahu wa ta'ala to attach yourself to Him, to make your life submitted to His will subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the way. But then if we come to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and I think Muslims normally don't have any problem with that. Although this is the difference between a believer and a non-believer. You know that the mushrikun at the time of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, those who were having many gods, they were polytheists in their own belief. They were believing in many gods. They were believing in small gods and different gods beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, they were believing in Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. They believed that Allah is the Lord, the Creator, the Church of this world, the Sustainer of this world, the Owner. But yet, they don't worship Him alone. They worship someone else, or worship someone to get closer to Allah. As they said, وَمَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. They just worship them in order to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that's not accepted. And this is what Al-Imam Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned as the distinction between the messengers of Allah and their own peoples, their own nations, whom they were sent to, in order to make this clear distinction that Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, Tawheed al-Ubudiyyah is the most important thing, not to worship anyone besides Allah. That's why you find forms of shirk here and there, forms of polytheism. Some people may worship not only gods, or as we say, the idols that the ignorant people used to have before Islam, or even after the coming of Islam, but rather they worship their own whims and desires. They worship their own wealth, their own money, their own interests, and so on and so forth. So that is important. But when we come to the word of Muhammadur Rasulullah, the scholars define the meaning of the belief in the messengerhood and prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as تصديقه فيما أخبر وطاعته فيما أمر واجتناب ما نهى عنه وزجر وألا يعبد الله إلا بما شرع. 4 things that we need to attain in order to truly believe in the messengerhood of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, which is to believe in whatever he has foretold us, what will happen or what he has told us, تصديقه فيما أخبر, and to obey him in his commandments, وطاعته فيما أمر, واجتناب ما نهى عنه وزجر, and to avoid and abstain from anything that he has made illegal, not permitted, and وَأَلَّا يُعْبَدَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِمَا شَرَعَ. This is important, not to worship Allah except in the way that the Prophet ﷺ made so clear.
Okay, Shaykh.
So
can I just stop you there for a second? Sorry. We have a phone call from Nigeria. Brother Muhammad from Nigeria.
Hello?
Yes, brother.
Hello, how is work?
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, brother. Present your question, please.
How is work?
Sorry?
I just called to appreciate what you are doing because you are always on you. So the way you are, I just called to appreciate your effort on this program.
Thank you very much. Brother Muhammad, do you have a question for us?
Yes. This program is very good too. Okay. So I want the Sheikh to feel. Hello?
Yes, brother. Present your question. We're listening. Listen to your phone and don't pay attention to your television.
Still explain on the unity of the Muslim brothers.
Okay, brother. Inshallah. Okay. Thank you very much for your question. Inshallah. Thank you. Okay. Coming back to what you're saying about the testimony of faith.
Exactly. That is the first one. If we take the salah and the zakah and siyam and hajj, they're all performed in congregation. The salah is being performed in congregation. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enjoined us to say, when He said, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ. He didn't say, أَقِيمُ الصَّلَاةَ, except to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because he's a leader. أقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل. And he said, خذ من أموالهم صدقة تطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصل عليهم. So you are, as a leader, you initiate this, so the rest or the community of believers will be following suit. So this is important to put first, that we need to execute these worships of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially the prayer, in congregation, in groups. That's why we have masjids, in order to create this community of believers. Everyone coming whenever we see each other, we hug each other, we greet each other. If someone is missing among us, we will ask and in fact check on our brothers. That is the form of the brotherly unity. We are united in the brotherhood under the shade of Islam. This is important. Zakah is also another form of unity in the sense that those who have would give those who have not.
Okay.
It's just this support and social system that tries to bring people together in order to help one another. Fasting, we fast at the same time. We start fasting at the same time when dawn comes, and we break fast together. And look at the feeling of the community and the unity of Muslims. Maybe people have seen this on television when the breaking of fast is transmitted live from Mecca or Medina. You see people just waiting for the mu'adhin to start, because that is time to break your fast. And everyone at the same time says Bismillah and starts. They're breaking the fast.
Okay, Sheikh, I'm going to stop you again. We have another phone call. Brother Saifuddin.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, brother.
Brother, I asked a question and you didn't reply. Like you told that you will reply today.
Could you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, I asked about the akika, and I told that if my parents have not given akika, yeah.
Okay, inshallah, we're going to address your question, inshallah.
This is yesterday.
Thank you very much for calling again.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Thank you very much, brother. Sorry, Sheikh, I interrupted you during your...
This brother he has a right upon us.
Okay.
And you mentioned this, and to be honest, Brother Junaid here actually was saying that we need to answer the question last night about aqiqah. Now comes the time, and if you want to, you would any of the sheikhs to answer this question, it would be, I would give them.
Sheikh Mohammed, could I ask you to respond to Brother Saifuddin, who's been patiently waiting?
The question, as far as I remember, that is it permissible to make aqiqah and sacrifice, which is udhiyah, for the same animal, right?
No, he didn't mention that. I don't think. No.
I think what he was addressing, Sheikh, if you could correct me as well, he was discussing what's the ruling of the aqiqah, first and foremost, and secondly, if the aqiqah hasn't been performed for a particular person, but the person now has grown up, what should he do?
Naam. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Aqiqah, as the scholars defined it, that it is a name of the sacrificial animal which is offered on the 7th day of the child's birth. And it is, as the Prophet ﷺ defined that, it should meet actually the same conditions of qurbani or udhiyah, in the sense that it is one of the 8 categories of cattle, which are camels, cows, sheep and goats, male and female. It should be free from any deficiency, like if it is sick, if it is not perfect in that sense. And also it should be offered 1 sheep, 2 sheep for a child, for a male, and 1 sheep for a female.
Okay.
And the scholars mention some other details about its distribution, etc. But these are the basic rules. If a person is not able actually of offering it on the 7th day, he may actually delay it, or he may make it when he is able to afford it. For those who grown up and they are not able, their fathers did not offer this aqiqah on their behalf, they can make it even if they are grown up.
Okay.
And there is no problem about it, and it's even preferable.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. We have another phone call from Gia from Saudi. Yes, is anybody there?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, brother, I would like to pose a question to the panel, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to seek your comments on the relationship of sect and unity.
The relationship between?
Sect, the denominations, and unity.
Sects.
Oh, okay.
Various groups, yes, SECT, sect.
Okay, inshallah, brother, we'll address your question. Thank you very much for your phone call. Before we address that question, Brother Amr, if I can ask you to elaborate on another principle. We've heard the speakers use the word unity and sometimes they use the word brotherhood. I want to know, is it the same thing or is there a difference between the two?
Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, if you look at the very example for all Muslims, which is the example of the first, ummah that the Prophet ﷺ formed in Medina, you see, it was beautiful. The first couple of things he ﷺ did in Medina when he reached Medina was to build the masjid, and to start the bond of brotherhood. So he built the masjid ﷺ with the help of the Sahaba. All of them, they got together to build the masjid to be the place that connects earth with the sky or with heaven. To be, not physically, but he started building the vertical relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then at the same time, or around the same time, he started the horizontal relationship. He started, every muhajiri will get an ansari to sponsor him, to take care of him, and both of them will kind of take care of each other.
Okay.
So that is a marvelous, principle in there, or value in there, that the Prophet ﷺ is giving us. He was building an ummah. He was starting an ummah. And this is what he did, the first thing, or the first couple of things. So now, we are talking about ummah, or unity of the ummah, being based on faith. And the Shaykh, mashallah, elaborated on the pillars of Islam and the relationship and how they are related to, or how they practically lead to the unity of our ummah.
Okay.
That is the unity of faith. And again, I would really like to talk about Hajj step by step. When you go in any of the steps of Hajj, you see the unity of the ummah so clear. From the time they leave their home countries, and all of them are heading towards the same place, all of them coming at the same time, and then they throw the stones, they do the tawaf, they do this and that, marching forward. All of them are doing the same thing. I'm repeating the example of this brother who is coming from all the way from this very isolated island in the middle of the Pacific, and the example of Indonesians, Malaysians, Chinese, Muslims, all of these faces, all of these, you see mosaic of the everybody in there, here in this global conference. So we see it so clear that the faith is what brings all of these people together. Then the sense of brotherhood. Well, faith is the same, and we see it also in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, said كَذَّبَتْ ثَمُودٌ الْمُرْسَلِينَ.
Right.
Thamud, the people of Thamud, they rejected what? The Mursaleen, which is the plural, all the messengers, even though only one prophet was sent to Thamud. وَإِلَى ثَمُودَ أَخَاهُمْ صَالِحًا. One prophet, one messenger was sent to them. They rejected him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it amounts to rejecting all the prophets. And it's clear again, كَذَّبَتْ عَادٌ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. In so many examples. He said, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. He talked about the example of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Noah, peace be upon him. And then right after that, the story of Nuh alayhi salam is done. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, وَإِنَّ مِنْ شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيمَ. Indeed, from his group, or from the same, people following on the same steps, will be Ibrahim. Ibrahim was not from his group or people in the sense of time. Ibrahim alayhi salam came thousands of years after Nuh alayhi salam. Yet, it's a unity throughout time because faith is the same. And then the action.
Okay.
You see the action in here. All Muslims should be, following in our case, we follow our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and by following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is following on the way of Ibrahim. ثُمَّ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Allah said, then we revealed to you, we inspired you, we made wahy, we gave wahy to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to follow on the steps of Ibrahim. So all of us are following in the steps of Ibrahim alayhi salam. And by Hajj, by making Hajj itself, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in one athar, he said, ما من نبي من لدن آدم فما دونه إلا حج البيت. There is not a single prophet from the time of Adam alayhi salam and up until or unless he made Hajj to this house, to this Baytullah. So subhanallah, all prophets did it. We're following on this, the same footsteps of all of these prophets. Faith is the same, actions are the same. Hopefully that will bring us together. When we make Hajj, we are united with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We're united with all Muslims, and all of us are united on the footsteps of Ibrahim and the footsteps of all the prophets alayhim salatu wassalam.
Thank you very much, Brother Amr. Dear viewers, we've come to our first break. Stay tuned. We'll address the question that was asked as well in the section of differences and what causes disunity. So stay tuned and join us in just a few moments.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك إن الحمد والنعمة لك.
Imagine that the Anbiya, they were the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they had the hardest lives.
He assumed that he had some kind of superiority and he was a better, more chosen, a better person because he had this wealth. And then you look at all the other people who had wealth, and some of them were the worst people. You had Fir'aun and Qarun.
Reviving your niyyah time and again, that you're doing insincerely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Most of the youth, they think, oh, I'm going to pray when I'm old, it's okay now, I'll have fun in my life. Later on I'll work, I'll go on my bed, I'll pray 5 times a day. And all these things, they think that's later on in their life, and they don't know when they will die.
Amira, who's your role model?
Khadija radiallahu anha.
And why?
Because she was Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife, and she was the first lady to believe in Islam.
لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك.
Huda TV's social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك إن الحمد والنعمة لك.
Why is Hajj so important? Allah the Almighty said in verse number 97 of the 3rd chapter of the Quran, which is known as Ali Imran, He said, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا تابعوا بين الحج والعمرة فإنهما ينفيان الفقر والذنوب. Follow up performing Hajj after Hajj and Umrah after Umrah. So what is the first step? Ihram. The first pillar is Ihram. What does Ihram mean? What does it entail? Hajj al-Ifrad, many of the local people do Hajj al-Ifrad, and others because they're exempt from offering the Hajj or the sacrifice. It doesn't require Hajj. So when you say لبيك اللهم عمرة وحجة, that's called Qiran. And you do the rites of Umrah and you do not take off the Ihram condition. Rather you continue until you finish the Hajj. So Al-Hajj and Al-Umrah, and following up between Hajj and Umrah for those who can afford it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives their past sins or whatever sins in between.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the second part of our program, Hajj Day Today, where we are talking about Hajj and the concept of unity. Sheikh Muhammad, if I could address my next question to you, please. Is one of the goals of Hajj unity of the Ummah?
Sure. Hajj is one of the forms of unity or one of the examples of unity. Before answering your question, I would like to concentrate that the best and the ideal, unique form of unity on the face of that earth happened in the Medina of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you review the faces of the believers in the Prophet's mosque, you will find them, number one, they are all believers in Allah and His Messenger. Number one, they have only one standard criterion
of a judgment, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there is no room for any type of racial discrimination. All of them love each other. All of them work for the sake of Allah and for the prosperity of Islam. Yet they had a lot of differences among themselves, but it did not scruple them from attaining the goal of that brotherhood.
Okay.
They have minor differences sometimes, and if they commit mistakes, it does not necessarily mean that they or those who commit those mistakes are out of the ummah. So any group of people on the face of the earth who can achieve that form in a tribe, in a state, or in a country, in a village, they are actually united.
Okay.
And this is a unique and ideal form of unity. Hajj is one of the examples that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to us to train the ummah to be united. Number one, the time of Hajj is actually assigned. Number two, the places of Hajj are the same. So all the people have to meet in one day. If you go to Arafah now, you will not find one single person. But on the 9th day, you will find over 2-3 million people over there. In the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that specific day as a day of gathering for all those people. The similarity of rituals, everybody does the same, regardless of his race, of his health and wealth, of his status. All of them are equal. That equality is one of the basic principles of unity. When they circumambulate around the Kaaba, when they come to stone the peoples, when they stay in Mina here in tents, which is a very humble environment, all of those things, that's why you will meet, you will exchange, you will talk, you will have some problems with others. So you have to train yourself to live with others, to bear them, to love them for the sake of Allah, and to be united for that goal. For Hajj, it is forgiving your sins and drawing closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to just be one of those that Allah has looked at them in mercy and to shower tranquility. If you ask everybody amongst us of all those Hajj, with their clothes, with their forms, and with their rituals, they have only one goal, which is, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I just want to sell the whole world, but just I want to get your forgiveness. Only your forgiveness. I need my sins to be wiped out. So all of those rituals, all of those practices are examples of unity of goal and unity of rituals and unity of objective.
Okay, thank you very much. We have Brother Muhammad calling us all the way from Nigeria. Yes, Brother Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam, Brother Muhammad. Unfortunately, the call has been dropped. Okay, if I could come to you, Brother Amr. You're an imam in the States, in Florida to be specific, and I'm sure you've led the prayer, and you've had many people praying behind you. But here in these days of Hajj, you know, even myself, I was amazed when you go to the Haram and you pray there. There are so many people praying behind one single person. I mean, this is such a beautiful example of unity.
Brother, subhanAllah, this religion, when you look at it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is getting us together day to day, annually. He is getting us together with the prophets by following in their footsteps, as I said earlier. He is getting us together as an ummah on a day-to-day basis when we pray in jama'ah, for example. The fard that we have to do every day, 5 times, we do it together.
Sorry, Brother Amr, I'm going to have to interrupt you.
Sure. Okay.
We have Brother Muhammad from Saudi Arabia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Yes, brother.
Thanks so much for bringing up such an important topic. I would like to share to the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, in which he talked about the saved group from among Muslims. And as you can see these days, Muslims are so divided into different factions and groups, and each faction claims to be the saved group that meets meet the requirement mentioned in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I'm just wondering, as a Muslim, what can I make out of all these differences and disagreements among Muslims? What can guide me in this regard? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Muhammad. You're addressing the topic of groups and sects. Just like the previous question, we're going to come to the factors of disunity in just a few moments. So stay tuned, we will address your question, inshallah. Sorry, Brother, if I could ask you to continue.
So yeah, that probably addresses the same point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a day-to-day basis, if you practice Islam, you pray 5 times every day, and you are told in the hadith, if you pray in jama'ah, the reward is either 25, 27 times according to a hadith, more, 27 times more or greater than praying by yourself. What does this tell me? It tells me Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to be with the group as much as I can. Actually, Imam Ahmad and other scholars believe it's obligatory for males. For those who can do the jama'ah, they have to do the jama'ah. So praying together is much higher in reward than praying by yourself. Coming to Hajj, I have the Jamarat in front of my eyes right now. I have to do Jamarat if Allah extend my life, for the next few days. I have to do Jamarat, but I cannot do it now. Even though it's free and accessible and everything, but I cannot. I have to stay until it's, the certain fixed time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells me and all Muslims to go together at the same time, and subhanAllah time frame within, from Dhuhr to Maghrib, or from that time to that time, you are supposed to go there. All of these actions and so many other practices and actions of Islam, really, if we think through them, if we reflect on them, we find out that all of them are calling us to get together. We pray behind one Imam in the Haram, subhanallah. Where is this sect or that sect? Where is the person praying next to you? Only Allah can tell. Allah looks at the heart. And Allah can tell who is more pious, who is having more taqwa. We are together at the same line, regardless of any status in life, regardless of any sects that you are following or anything. Actually, Islam, if you practice it, ma alayhi ana wa ashabi. The Prophet ﷺ said, what I am following or what I'm doing right now, me and my companions. So if you do Hajj like the Prophet ﷺ, pray like the Prophet ﷺ, you always be in the line with other Muslims. You always will be, feel this, belongingness of you belong to this ummah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala get our ummah back together, to pray together and to make Hajj together, and also to be one body and one ummah, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a phone call from Chad. Can I ask you, brother, to give us your name, please? Assalamu alaikum. Yes, brother, present us your question, please.
I have no question. This is my first time to call people then.
Okay. Do you have any comment for us?
So I just want to say,
Go ahead.
Okay, sir. I just want to say assalamu alaikum to all of you, and I'm very happy about all your programs. So that's why I call, and this is my first time, so I am about to call you every time.
Brother, I encourage you to call us again. Your salam is appreciated very much, and it's also a form of unity. You bringing yourself closer to us. Thank you very much for your phone call.
Jazakallahu khairan. MashaAllah, beautiful.
Sheikh Ahmed, the next question. What are the fruits of being united?
But I think we have delayed enough the question of sects and the question of division, which is essential.
Okay.
Very important part of our discussion tonight.
Okay.
If I may, I'm saying that always we can talk about the fruits, which are immense in terms of when we unite, we'll have peace, tranquility, we will have always one objective, we'll work, we'll achieve all our objectives together if we have the same intention, we have the same goal to reach. I think that will bring us together. It will save us many troubles. However, looking today at the situation and inspecting the reality of Muslims.
We've got a phone call from Brother Musa from Nigeria. Yes, Brother Musa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
May Allah accept us in these blessed days of Dhul Hijjah. May Allah accept our ibadat.
Ameen.
My question is regarding the Udhiyah, the slaughtering of sacrifice, the sacrificial animal, let's say shark. What is the best thing to do? Should I give it all to sadaqah, or should I eat it with my own family? What is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? What is the best thing to do with the Udhiyah, the sacrifice and slaughtering in the day of Nahar?
Okay, brother, thank you very much for your question. We'll address that shortly, inshallah. Shaykh Ahmed, you were discussing some of the causes of disunity.
The first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directed us to follow His path. And He said subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. So the advice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you should follow His straight path. And Shaykh Amr already mentioned the rope of Allah. What is the rope of Allah? The rope of Allah is Al-Islam.
Okay.
The rope of Allah is Al-Quran. The rope of Allah is the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. All of these things are the rope of Allah. So if we hold on to them, hold on to La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, according to the pure understanding of the Prophet ﷺ and his own companions. And the first 3 generations of Islam before all these additions and deletions from the religion came in later.
Okay.
That's why we need to purify our faith and to make sure that we understand Islam as it was revealed upon our Prophet ﷺ, and to put that in practice. We know this is going to be a struggle, coming from different backgrounds, different schools of thoughts, different orientations and so on. One person would say, I follow this particular shaykh. Someone else would say, I follow this particular school. I follow this particular trend, and so on and so forth. We need to take that away for a time and just try to concentrate on what is in the Quran and what is in the Sunnah according to the understanding of the Prophet ﷺ and his own companions. I think that will bring us more closer and closer. Because if I stick to my own particular tradition that is only found in my own particular country at one particular time, then actually I'm limiting myself. And I'm saying only I'm of the Hanafi school, I'm only of the Hanbali school, I'm only of the Sufi tradition, I'm of only this trend or that trend. We should take that away and concentrate on the way of the Prophet ﷺ. That is important, because the Prophet ﷺ one day, when the Sahaba were looking, drew a line, a straight line on the ground, and he drew lines coming from that straight line to the right and to the left, and he recited the ayah, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِي مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. This is my straight way. It's right direct into getting you into heaven, into Jannah. We know that a straight line is the shortest distance between 2 dots, right?
Right.
2 points. That's it. But if you go and divert to the right or to the left, you're getting away from the objective. That is the problem. Some people tend to go and follow this particular path or that particular path away from the straight path.
Okay.
We need to follow this. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. This is what we ask Allah to do, at least if we only pray the obligatory prayers every day 17 times. In Surah Al-Fatiha we recite اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. What is a straight path? A straight path, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم صراط الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. So we should follow that path, the path of Allah, whom Allah has bestowed His favor upon, of the prophets and the Siddiqeen, the very close believers who believed truly and fully in these prophets.
Okay.
And washuhada, those who were martyred in the path of Allah, defending their own faith. Was-salihin, and those righteous people who are beyond that, وَمَن يَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. If you follow a path other than the path of the believers, then obviously you're getting away from the way of salvation. So the way of salvation from these different sects and different methodologies and different ways and paths away from the straight path will lead us away from the way of salvation. That's why we have different names, different categories. People are following this particular school, that particular school. We can tolerate the various schools of fiqh based on the evidence and the studies of a particular imam, especially the four imams, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa radiyallahu anh, Al-Imam Muhammad ibn Idris al-Shafi'i radiyallahu anh, Al-Imam Malik ibn Anas radiyallahu anh, Wal-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiyallahu anh. All of these four imams and the various imams that came, they were so much holding to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They did their best. They exerted their effort to reach the truth. And they tried to serve this deen to the best, according to what they found at their own time. Yes, they may have not heard this particular hadith or that particular hadith. That's why they were doing and using their own intellect, their own work in order to reach the truth. But they never had a bad intention.
Of course.
But nowadays we see people with bad intentions. We see too many ideologies. We see there is so much politicization of religion, taking religion to follow this particular form, serving a particular interest under one particular way, and so on and so forth. We need to avoid all of that. That will bring us so close. And let me mention one last thing. I know that maybe I talked too much.
No, of course
not. I
not.
wanted to touch upon one point. Sometimes if I see a brother of mine who believes in the same principles, the same articles of faith, and yet I may have a different way, a different interpretation of a particular hadith or school of fiqh, I may shun away from this person. I may find it hard to be so much lenient towards my brother. But I think we need to unite regardless of the various differences, because if we are so much affectionate, if we are affectionate towards each other, if we embrace each other, even with our differences, we will come closer and closer. Inshallah. Allah says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةٌ. Believers are only but brothers. You see, if we are but brothers, so فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. Have piety so that you may have the mercy of Allah upon you. Then I think we need to embrace each other. We need to be lenient towards our brothers. We need to embrace them. Islam teaches us this so much, particularly during time of Hajj.
Okay, thank you very much. Sheikh Muhammad, if I could, we've got 2 minutes before we go over to a break, if I could ask you to just elaborate further on some of the causes of disunity.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I need actually to comment on the Sheikh's answering on the question.
Of course.
Which is, he already said the boundaries of as-sirat al-mustaqim, which is the straight path, but still in reality we have sects and groups. So I need actually to put a criterion to measure this, which is the scholar said that if there is a difference in the basic principles of the religion of Islam, that turns into a sect. And for example, the authority of the Quran. If a group of people abandon or rejected the authority of the Quran or the authority of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or they deny something which is mentioned in the Book of Allah and it's a decisive, in this case, this is sectarian act which deviates it from the mainstream of Islam. So most of the Muslims, they are gathered together under those principles which are established and founded, well founded and very well known. Within the body of the mainstream Islam, there are some groups which work for the sake of Allah.
Okay.
But there is a critical point among them, which is if we find a group of people concentrate on a verse of the Quran and abandoning the rest, or they focus on a leader other than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or we find them focus on a principle of Islam and abandoning the rest of that, this is something which is critical. because we are supposed to take all the principles of the religion in total. But the scholar said in this case that we can help each other and work together in social activities. But when it comes to turning away from the basic boundaries, so we are not supposed to follow.
Okay.
The four schools of law differed. And I think we will talk about differences and the reasons later.
Okay.
But it was accepted even and tolerated by the Prophet ﷺ, even during his lifetime. But those type of differences, they are not in the basic principles of belief. They are in the details of Islamic legislation and in Islamic law.
Okay, thank you. Dear viewers, we've come to another break. But I would like you to do something during these few minutes that you have. I want you to think about possible ways in which we can get united. People are calling us from Nigeria, from Chad, from so many different countries. I want you to think about different ways in which we as Muslims can become united. And then, inshallah, after the break, call us and give us your answer. So until then, in a few moments, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك إن الحمد والنعمة لك.
And the talbiyah, as we all know, is when a Muslim would say لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك. Should not say that. Every Muslim should perform Hajj. And when we are performing the Hajj, we need to reach this perfection by seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, by seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and making sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best and we do not know what is good for us. The Kaaba is not the bricks that is being built. The Kaaba is what is behind, or what's behind the meanings of Al-Kaaba, the first house of worship. If a person would know the wisdom behind every move that a person do in matters of worship, then where the submission comes into the full meanings of it. To remember what Hajar, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when she went from the Safa to the Marwa, so concerned and disturbed about the affairs of her child Ismail, when he was laying some place between the Safa and the Marwa, crying because of the shortage of food and water.
لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك لا شريك لك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك.
Your questions and comments mean a lot to Huda TV crew, so please don't hesitate to contact us on social media. On Facebook, www.facebook.com/huda.tv. On YouTube, www.youtube.com/hudatv. On Twitter, @Huda TV channel. And on our official website, www.huda.tv. You can watch Huda TV on the Nilesat on the following parameters. Frequency 11747. Huda TV is also now available for broadcast on the Galaxy 19 satellite in the United States of America on the following parameters. Satellite Galaxy 19, frequency 12184.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back after a very short break. So I wonder who did their homework and who's going to be the first one to call us and give us their suggestion or comments on how we, inshallah, can become more united. Until then, let me pose a question, inshallah. Sheikh Muhammad, you mentioned something in the discussion prior to the break about differences. I would like to take this a bit further and say, are there differences which are tolerable, and are there some differences which are not tolerable at all inside of the Sharia?
Before talking about the types of differences, there is actually a difference between differences and conflict.
Okay.
Because the Ummah may tolerate some types of differences, but still that doesn't necessarily lead to conflict. And this is a concept that most of our predecessors understood, that they had different opinions and different views in specific cases, but it did not lead them to conflict or to have contradictory ways of life. So there are so many types of differences. Some of them are tolerable and others which are not tolerable. Let me give you an example which happened at the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he sent a group of people to Bani Qurayza after the battle of the trench. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasized on the group of people by saying, لا يصلين أحدكم العصر إلا في بني قريظة. So all of you must pray Asr prayer in Banu Qurayza. Don't pray Asr except in Bani Qurayza. So the people actually went and they rushed to reach Banu Qurayza's place before the time of sunset. Some of them, the sunset is on, so they have to make the prayers. So they said that the Messenger ﷺ's intention of that statement was mainly to encourage us to go there faster. But when the time of prayer comes, we have to respond and we have to pray in congregation. And the other people, they understood it differently. They said, no, the Prophet ﷺ commanded us, we have to obey him and we have to commit to the literal understanding of this statement. So they delayed Asr until they reached Banu Qurayza.
Okay, brother, Sheikh, there is a phone call actually. Jannah, if I understand correctly, from Saudi Arabia. Yes, sister.
Yes, I'd like to make comments here.
Yes, sister, go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to make a comment. You know, yesterday they were talking about the unity or lack of unity. And I called in and I made a comment, and what I believe, it is still the same. The lack of unity really has to do with Aqidah. People follow, this is the problem, people follow Mahad. Long time ago they followed Mahad. They are still doing this very stupid thing. And they will follow this sheikh or that sheikh or this friend or that family person or that family. And you know what is the big problem about it? They say it with such pride. Such pride. You know, yes, the sheikhs, they do this. Yes, the muftis, they do this. Don't they realize that Allah really will punish them? They are so arrogant with their mahad. And do they not fear Allah? Do they not know? This is what they preach to the little people, that they will not go to Jannah if you have so much pride and if you have so much arrogance. But this is what they do. People now, they not say with such pride, I follow Quran and I follow the Sunnah, what Prophet Muhammad did, and then I follow the hadith of what he has said. No. And then they just do the ibadah because this is what everyone else does. They do not do enough ibadah to reach the heart. They are not the aminu. They may be just a Muslim, but really not aminu. Inshallah, the sheikhs will hear this. The muftis will hear this. The people that teach the other little people that they must lose this pride and arrogance, because this is the reason why that there is really division.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister, for your comment. Actually, it's a very heartwarming comment and really does touch the emotions of a person. yeah, of course, we must remove arrogance, we must remove pride. All of us must do that. So thank you very much, sister, for your comment. Sheikh Muhammad.
So the two groups interpreted the statement of the Prophet ﷺ differently. One group interpreted that literally, and the others actually had a flexibility of understanding the text. And then when they returned it back to the Messenger, he accepted both approaches. And then it grew up in Islamic jurisprudence two schools of understanding the text, which are Ahlul Ra'i, people who based their fatwa or their verdicts on personal reasoning and much wider interpretation of the texts, and others who stuck to the literal understanding of the text.
Okay.
So both groups went together parallel throughout the history of Islam, and the Ummah accepted that, tolerated it. So this is a type of difference which is called a difference in from a legal perspective, or in Islamic law, or in understanding the text itself. We have a lot of decisive rules and decisive verses and statements of the Prophet ﷺ, which are not open to any type of interpretation. They are self-evident, explicit and apparent, so we have to agree on all of them. But there is a room of a lot of other texts which are open to interpretation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was able actually to reveal the whole of His book in one form which is decisive. But it's a matter of mercy and tolerance that made it accessible and feasible.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have another phone call actually. Miftahuddin from Saudi. Yes, brother.
Hello.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. Yes, I want to ask.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask question. Yeah, if a woman comes to Hajj without Muharram, Hajj is going to be accepted or not?
Okay, thank you, brother. Thank you very much. We'll address the question, inshallah.
So this is an approach which is in Islamic law. Some people, they put their hands here in prayers, and others put it here. Some people, they raise their hands when they are making takbir, and others. All of those things, they differed based on their difference in understanding the Arabic language, based on the amount of the ahadith that they had of the Prophet ﷺ. So when you go deeper in understanding the reasons of the difference in Islamic law, you will find them that they are reasonable and acceptable. And each person, and a person is supposed to, if he is a layman, in the sense that he doesn't have deep and specialized understanding of law, of Islamic law or Islamic fiqh, he is supposed to follow an imam. But actually, he exerts his personal reasoning in choosing who is the imam to choose. That he must be knowledgeable, and number two, he must be honest and authentic and reliable source of that knowledge. Okay. So these are the basic. There are some other differences which are not tolerable in Islam. When the Prophet ﷺ saw Umar ibn al-Khattab holding the Bible in his hands, at a time when the Muslims are still receiving revelation and it states the boundaries of Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Amutahawwiqun?" The Prophet ﷺ was very nervous, because here there are principles that he set for them, and the Prophet ﷺ didn't like to actually go beyond those principles by accepting some of the deviant notions or norms that are actually found in other books.
Okay.
There are some other differences which are also not accepted in Islam. Like, for example, when it comes to the basic principles of creed and aqidah.
Okay.
So these are some of the types of differences that a person can find in Islamic.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Muhammad. Brother Amr, I felt like you wanted to contribute to what Sheikh was saying when he was talking about differences.
Yeah, this is probably one of the most important topics nowadays, that, the Muslim unity and, versus dissension and sects and groups and all of that. And many times people mix things together.
Right.
They mix the madhahib, for example, schools of thoughts. And many people, they think of it as dissension, as diversion of the ummah when it is not. Based on what Sheikh Muhammad just said right now, there is a room in Islam for اختلاف التنوع.
Okay.
You know, difference of variety, not the difference of conflict. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created us, we are not the same, we are not identical. Even when we talk about unity, unity does not mean to be identical with everybody else. Everybody has his own emotions, backgrounds, language. This is even one of the signs of Allah.
Okay.
I mean, آياته and what is the ayah again? واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم منامكم بالليل والنهار وابتغاء. Then the ayah. Yeah, so he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that you have different tongues. You are different in the way you look, in the way you speak, in the way you look at things, in the way you deal with things. Such were the Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ. They were not all Umar, they were not all Abu Bakr, they were not all Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Abu Huraira. Everybody has his own path, way. Because everybody is set in such a way that Abu Huraira will be mainly, interested in hadith. Khalid will be mainly, taking the military approach. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, probably actually this is the encyclopedic person. He's, mashallah. So, but they are different. But, even though they were, different, they differ in certain things. If you take hadith Abi Sa'id al-Khudri fi Sahih, a beautiful hadith.
Okay.
He said, we were with the Prophet ﷺ, or we used to be with the Prophet ﷺ in a safar, traveling in Ramadan. And then, فَمِنَّا الصَّائِمُ وَمِنَّا الْمُفْتِرُ. Some of us will be fasting, some of us will break their fasting. It's a concession, rukhsa. And then here is the point that we really need to take it as a slogan for us. فَلَا يَجِدُ الصَّائِمُ عَلَى الْمُفْطِرِ وَلَا الْمُفْطِرُ عَلى الصَّائِمِ. So the fasting person would not hold anything against the one who breaks his fasting. Why do you break your fasting? You're strong, you're this and that. And the other way around. Al-Muftir, the one who breaks his fasting, would not say, oh, you are mutashaddid or you are this and that. Why you fast? So we should accept one another. I assume that many of the differences that we're having nowadays in the ummah, we can accommodate, we can, compromise. Because all it needs is some understanding. If you talk at the madhahib themselves, since we're talking about the madhahib, the schools of thought. Ya akhi, subhanAllah, the leaders of all of these madhahib, Imam al-Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, and other imams, look at how they deal with each other. So in Islam, the room for ijtihad is there. You have a call?
I have a call.
Go ahead, please.
There's a phone call from Saudi. Yes, brother. Yes, brother, could you present your question or your comment?
Okay, I'm Dr. Muzaffar from Saudi. May Allah accept your every deed, your every word, and your every step in this Mina Valley. May Allah reward you with Jannah, Jannatul Firdaus, Jazakallahu khair, for your every action, for your every word, for your every step in this wadi. I have one question, please. I am doing, inshallah, Rahman Hajj Kiran. When I will perform my Umrah, I will not shave my head. And I will shave my head on 10th. Will it be for both Hajj and for Umrah, or what? Just explain. What is the hikmah after it? May Allah reward you.
Thank you very much, brother, for your phone call. Okay, thank you very much, brother. Okay, there seems to be a lag here. Sheikh, yes. Would you like to... sorry, Brother Muhammad, you were saying a point before I...
So yeah, what I was saying is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in such a way that, is an ayah for us, is a sign, is something to reflect on. So we are different. And we should use this variety to move forward instead of clashing and coming, in conflict with each other. Why don't we move forward? That's not to compromise any of the essentials. As we all know, nobody is rejecting Quran. Nobody is, having a very, very, exceptional way of looking at ayat or a hadith, or not following, just inventing. That's not acceptable. But many of our differences nowadays, I believe they can be tolerated. Somebody is focusing on politics. There is politics in Islam, siyasa shar'iyya, and that's what his trend. He's, set for that. Somebody is focusing more in gaining knowledge and studying. That's beautiful. Someone else is focusing on spirituality and things like that. That's beautiful. You see all of that as examples in the Sahaba. Yet, all of us are relating back to the same source. Our Prophet is the same, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When we come to the Hajj here, which is something that, since we are already here, all of us will do the same thing. Why do we differ then? Let's accept one another.
Okay.
Let's tolerate. And then if you believe the other person is deviant, is something, then he still has a wajib over you to give him nasiha, to advise him.
Of course.
And nasiha is to be done in the best way. Because the very meaning of nasiha in Arabic, from the verb nasaha, nun, sad, and ha, one of the meanings is that, to patch. If the clothes has some, a flaw or something, and then you patch it, you try to cover anything that's wrong. So if somebody needs teaching, you teach him. If somebody needs, guidance, you guide him in the nicest way, in the best way. This way, we will be more united. But shaitan doesn't want to do that, and that's why we are here. We're going to be doing the stoning in a few days to defeat the shaitan, inshallah.
Inshallah. Sheikh Ahmed,
yes.
Coming to, I think we should move on now. We've spent a lot of time talking about differences. Let's look at the positive side, and let's try to provide our viewers with some solutions. How can we become more united as a ummah?
Well, that's a good question. I think I need to emphasize one particular point.
Please.
That many of the Muslim groups, if you will, those who have come from different trends, they have this staunch attitude towards others.
Okay.
In fact, they go into the extreme. And that's where the problem starts. If I say only my way is the right way, then we're getting some trouble. As long as everyone is a Muslim, everyone says La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, everyone follows the same principles as already explained, then why are you taking this into extremism? Why are you emphasizing one particular thing? Because there are some groups who say, as the sister was commenting, following one particular sheikh. If you don't follow my sheikh, then you're not of me and I'm not of you.
Right.
We're not brothers under
Sectarianism.
Islam. That's sheikhism, if you will. We don't want to emphasize this sheikhism. Our sheikh, all of us, is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He is the leader. He is the example. Then obviously, because everyone was aiming to understand, to follow this example of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as Allah says that. He said, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, in regarding Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as taking him as the example, taking Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam as the example. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر. Verily, in the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in the Messenger of Allah, an example for you if you seek Allah and the hereafter. If you really want to follow the right path, then find the example in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everyone is trying to reach that model, to imitate that example, including the sheikhs and the imams and the various people who lead. Yes, as long as this person is taking us to the right path, why not? I can take him as my supporter, as my guide. I will follow his guidance to the extent, as long as it goes to the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But nothing beyond that. Nowadays we see people who carry even weapons. Now you remind me of a story that in the 70s, wallahi, one brother was telling me about a masjid somewhere in this world. I'm not going to mention the country, I'm not going to mention the city. They said they were coming to the masjid with guns in their pockets. A'udhu billah. What are you coming to pray or to fight?
But that's haram. That's against
Astaghfirullah. I mean, what is the purpose? But sometimes we go into this extreme and we find al-ghulu. And this extremism was mentioned by the Prophet and he was warning against it. He said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَالْغُلُوُ فَإِنَّمَا أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمُ الْغُلُوُ.
Subhanallah.
Those before us were destroyed because of extremism. Because extremism can take you out of the folds of Islam. If you say, I only have this and this is it. I don't believe. even if someone is not a Muslim, let alone being a Muslim, if someone is not a Muslim, you try to convince this person. Try to, yes, you have to explain to him, to this particular person, your own religion in the most possible way. As Allah said subhanahu wa ta'ala, ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah. And hikmah is wisdom. That includes the glorious Quran, it includes the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and it includes also doing and getting the right things in the right place at the right time. If we do that, then we will be bringing people around us. We need to be soft. And let me go into even touching upon a subject that would go against the unity of the Ummah, which is takfir. Okay. Some people go into the extreme of pronouncing a particular person as kafir, as mubtadi', sometimes without a basis or in the form of my own understanding. Let this be the job of the scholars, those who are so well versed in Islam. Let them handle these matters, because they have their own way and they have their own understanding, they have their own techniques, if you will, in dealing with these issues. But as normal Muslims, let's try to practice Islam to the best of our ability. Let's find guidance in the glorious Quran. Let's increase our knowledge, because the more you consult the sources of Islam, the ignorant you feel about yourself. And look, I don't have that knowledge, but sometimes we see young people who are just in the early stages of, they were somehow deviant from the path of Islam. Either they were Muslims by birth, and then they somehow led a terrible life, indecent life. Okay. And then, alhamdulillah, they said we need to be good Muslims, but they come to the extreme. That's not the issue. Come and learn and try moderately and honestly to follow the path of the truth based on the understanding that is found in the interpretation of the glorious Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Sheikh, if you don't mind, I would like to elaborate on this point just a little bit further. You mentioned some of them, this particular mosque where people were coming with weapons and so on and so forth, and the youngsters going to extreme. But is it not fair to say that those people who were leading these youngsters, those who claim to have the knowledge, they're the ones who carry the responsibility for urging the followers to do such actions?
Sometimes we have bad leaders, as we have good leaders. So it's the responsibility of any particular leader, an imam, a sheikh, a president of a particular community or a masjid. You have to be responsible enough to take these youngsters and get engaged with them in dialogue. Let's see where they're coming from and why are they taking this action. But sometimes, and then of course that leads into the various things of aggression and transgressing against Muslims and non-Muslims just on this basis, because they want to form their own understanding of the deen. That's why they turn away from the true scholars and the religious leaders. We need every young man and women to come to the understanding through the leadership of the great, trustworthy scholars who are, alhamdulillah, available. People who have studied the Sharia, people who have a comprehensive understanding of Islam. That way they will be saved from these deviant interpretations, right, extremism, or just negligence. We don't want to go to either extreme, to the extreme of interpreting Islam and trying to take Islam, harsh and say as the Prophet ﷺ interpreted when people say we're not going to when people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, some people say we will not get married. Some people said that we will not eat meat. Some people say we'll spend the night praying, we will never sleep. And the Prophet ﷺ said, who said this? مَا بَالُ أَقْوَامٍ يَقُولُونَ كَيْتَ وَكَيْتَ. Why would some people say this and this? The Prophet ﷺ asked everyone to come back to his sunnah. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever does not have an interest in my sunnah. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, I pray and I sleep. and I eat meat.
Okay.
And I marry women. So he has this, mashallah, moderate way, al-wasat, in understanding the deen, in applying the deen, and that will bring us, inshallah, closer and closer to the folds of Islam.
Okay. Dear guests, we have 2 more minutes to go. So I would like
Don't
to
forget
just,
the questions, please.
Inshallah. Sheikh, would you like to take the question about the udhiyah?
Udhiyah again?
The brother was asking a question, Sheikh. Do you remember what?
Yes. He said that the udhiyah, this person, is it about udhiyah or saying the sacrifice? He said,
maybe we can delay it until tomorrow.
I don't know. I remember the second question, at least.
The second question, if we can, Sheikh, if you don't
right.
mind, we actually have a caller waiting as well. So, dear caller, please try again tomorrow. We promise to take your call, and also the 2 questions that were asked. We will not forget them tomorrow. Inshallah, we will respond to both of them. Bi'idhnillah. Sheikh Muhammad, in the last minute now. So, could I ask you very briefly just to give some advice to the Muslims on how they can be united?
I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost to bring all Muslims back to Him.
Ameen.
And back to the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My personal advice is, number 1, adhering to the basic principles that unite us, which is the Quran and the Sunnah. Number 2, we are in need to understand each other, and we are in need for tolerance amongst us, which is better, and it is given priority. We always talk about tolerance with others, with non-Muslims, but I think we are in need for tolerance amongst us as Muslims, and we should actually be very aware of how we manage our differences, and those differences does not ultimately lead to conflict. We can go together. I remember statement of Imam Malik.
Okay.
Imam Malik, according to his school of law, he actually prohibits praying after Asr. But a young man came to him and said, when he entered the masjid, why you don't pray 2 rak'ats? And Imam Malik stood up and he made the 2 rak'ats. His students said that you violated your principle. And he said, no, because I was afraid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمُ ارْكَعُوا لَا يَرْكَعُونَ. When it said to them, bow down, they don't.
Adab.
So it's about a matter of etiquette with the Quran, etiquette with the Sunnah, and this is a lesson of don't be stubborn.
Okay.
Accept the truth whenever and wherever, from wherever it comes.
That's right.
Okay, unfortunately we've run out of time. We're going to have to close it there. So I'd like to thank you all for coming to the program today. All 3 of you, thank you very much. Inshallah, we'd like to have another program with all 3 of you together again sometime soon. Dear viewers, thank you very much for tuning in and giving us your precious time, and a special thank you to all those who called in and expressed themselves and gave us their viewpoints. It's a very important subject, the subject of unity. Enough differences and enough of separation and enough suffering. It's time to move forward. Unity is the way forward. Let's unite, let's come back to our glorious days, and inshallah ta'ala we will see them very soon. Tomorrow inshallah we have a program which will be about Hajj and sacrifice. So join us tomorrow at the same time, same place. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.